Hi guys and welcome to my channel. My name is Nicole. If you're new here, and here on We Mama I do lots of motherhood, lifestyle, cleaning and organisational videos. So if you like that kind of content, I would love it if you could stick around and maybe consider subscribing. I post videos on that kind of content every Tuesdays and Thursdays and I would love to have you here as a viewer. Today's video is going to be a motherhood one and all about my 5 tips of going back to work after having a baby. All from a second time mum. Before we start, I have got my 8-month-old daughter behind the camera, so if you can hear any cooing, fart noises, anything like that, I promise it's not me, it's my daughter. In 2019 I had a little boy called Didier. He is now 2 years old and as I've just mentioned, my daughter Nina is 8 months old and I have just gone back to work after a whole year. With my first I had him in the January and I didn't end up going back to work until November. So I was off on maternity leave for 11 months. And with my daughter, I found out that I was pregnant in December 2019. And then in March, COVID-19 happened. I got furloughed. Then from August till March, I was on maternity leave. I went back to work full time in April. So yes, it's been fun going back to work with having 2 children, just about managing with childcare. My lovely mum is now living with us for 3 days a week whilst I am back at work. My husband has them on a Monday, I have them on a Tuesday, and then my mother has them Wednesday, Thursdays, Fridays, whilst I go back to work. With my first Didier, I work in a nursery, so my little boy came to work with me for 3 days a week. That's just not possible anymore with having 2 babies in the nursery at the same time. It's a lot of money. So that's why my mum is now looking after both of them very, very kindly. I don't know what I'd do without her. But yes, I found taking Didier to work with me, I didn't really have that transition of going to work and leaving my baby, if you know what I mean. It was quite easy. It was nice that I could just pop in and see him throughout the day if I really wanted to. I could watch him. Oh, I could watch him through the windows if I wanted to, or pop in for a little cuddle. So it was quite easy the first time round, whereas now my mum is looking after them. And of course that is really helpful, knowing that, you know, a family member, my mother is looking after them. But it still was a bit hard going back to work 40 hours a week whilst not seeing your babies coming home from work. I finish work at 6 o'clock and of course I've not seen them for the whole day, and yet they're being put in bed by the time I get home. So the transition is a bit harder this time round. So I just wanted to share my 5 tips of making that transition a bit easier. So my first tip is to just do a trial run. Before you go back to work, maybe book them in for extra nursery sessions or with your childcare, wherever they are, just to get you used to having some time without them. Whilst you've been on maternity leave, I'm gonna guess that your children have been attached to your hip the whole time. So just starting that process a little bit earlier can definitely help you get into that routine for both of you. You're not going to get as much separation anxiety, and yeah, it's just good for your child to know that you're not going to be there 24/7 as you have been. And whilst they are with that childcare, get you and your child and any other family members there into that same routine. Drop them off at the time that you would be going to work, make sure that you're getting them all ready and stuff like that. It just makes the transition a lot smoother. Explain to the child, if you have older children, if you have been off work for longer, like 1 year or 2 years, and they have a little bit of understanding, definitely get it into their head that you are going back to work and that, you know, you're not going to be there. Start telling them, oh, mummy's going to work, mummy go to work soon. Start telling them about dad, like, oh, daddy's going to work soon. It's just so that your child has an understanding of where you're going. Sometimes they may be a bit too young to kind of comprehend, but my little boy is 2 and now that I come home in my uniform, or even when he sees my uniform drying on the rack, he knows that that is my work uniform and he's like, Mama, work. He sees my keys for my key card for work and he's like, Mama, working. So having that little bit of understanding that he actually knows that when I wear that item or I have that item of clothing, he knows that I won't be here. So that's quite good preparation for my child to know that I'm not going to be here that day. And also another tip, I know how hard it can be whilst dropping off your child at their childcare. The separation anxiety is real, the guilt is real. So don't beat yourself up about it. I would definitely get out there, try and do something to cheer yourself up, do something that you can't do with your babies. Go out for lunch by yourself or with your friends, go and do some shopping. The kind of stuff that you just can't get done whilst your baby's there, to take your mind off of it. My next tip is to, of course, goes without saying, be organised. Definitely have to get everything ready the day before. I like to put out all my kids' clothes just so it makes it easier for my mum when she's getting them dressed in the morning. I like to set out all of my work things, make my work lunch the night before, make sure that my work bag is prepped and ready to go, just so that everything runs smoothly in the morning. It just makes sense. You don't want to be waking up, especially if your baby is still waking up in the night, like mine is. You know, you're already losing that sleep. You don't want to be running around in the morning trying to look for a pair of socks or your favourite bra. Is that just me? Definitely get everything ready the night before. Best tip. Also, get organised with things outside of your work. So make sure that your fridge is full before you go back. Make sure that you're checking calendars ahead of time, planning out your week. I have to keep a bullet journal, making sure that I've listed out everything that week. Lists are your best friend. I have a notebook just full of lists. I write every single thing down on it, as well with lists on my phone. I have real baby brain, and if I don't write it down, it does not stay in my brain. So lists are definitely a big help. As I mentioned before, definitely get an early night. Don't come home from work and then stay up to watch, you know, Line of Duty that's on at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. If you've got a baby waking up in the night like I do, it's just not worth it. Definitely just prioritise, watch it on catch up. Definitely try and get an early night in. For me, I find it quite hard, especially with doing YouTube. I really enjoy editing at night. Try and get a video edited until 10 o'clock. Sometimes I really have to be like, no, YouTube isn't paying me, my job is. I need to make sure that I'm ready for my actual job. And also when it comes to organisation, I like to prioritise cleaning times. I like to make sure that throughout the week on my day off, I'm just tidying the house, and then during my kids' nap times on the weekends, that's when I get everything done, such as bathrooms, hoovering and stuff like that. I don't try and do massive deep cleans because, if I'm completely honest, that's just not feasible. I'd like to say that, oh yeah, I can do that, but it's just not going to happen in their nap times, especially if one wakes up just as I'm putting the other one down. My third tip is to meal plan. I have only just kind of started doing this. I fall off the wagon. Maybe for like 2 months in a row, I'm really good at it, and then 1 month we'll just fall off it and just waste so much food, time, money. So yes, meal planning is definitely a great tip. I also really love using a steamer, a slow cooker, and just batch cooking. We really love veggie chili, so I like try to make like bigger portions and then freeze it. I also stock my freezer up with emergency meals, stuff like fish fingers, veggie chicken nuggets, stuff like that, waffles, the kind of food that's not great, but if you are in a pinch and you don't have time to make something, they are my emergency meals. Definitely make sure you have like an emergency stash if you're coming home from work and the fridge is empty, because it happens. Even though you try to be organised, it doesn't always go to plan. Steamers are great because you could just chuck all your food into it and it cooks at the same time. I use my steamer quite a lot. I love my fish and my veg, so this is a great way to just put everything in the tiers and you have your meal cooked for you. You don't really need to think too much of it, and also it's quite fast. Slow cookers are great. I do tend to use these more in the winter months than the warmer months. Slow cookers are a great help. My next tip is to plan days off in advance. Now that my husband is off on a Sunday and it is our day together as a family, all 4 of us are home, I am now making sure that we are planning our days off. I don't want to be stuck home on a Sunday, not doing anything, or on Sunday morning be like, oh, this would be a good idea, and then when we go to book something, it's fully booked or stuff like that. Or towards the end of the month, if you haven't budgeted too much money and you can't afford to do certain things, I really am trying to make more of a conscious effort to book things. So for this month, for example, we are doing like 1 week on, 1 week off. So for this Sunday, we are going to Warwick Castle, and then the next week we're just going to have like a lazy day, going down to a river, weather permitting, having a picnic. Then the next week we are going to go down to the Cotswolds Farm Park. So booking that kind of time makes your days off feel a lot more productive. You're spending quality time together, you're actually doing something, you've got something in the diary, and this has been such a help. You look forward to your days off more, the kids are excited. So yeah, I definitely recommend making those plans in advance. And also just remember to spend that quality time with them when they are home. It's so easy to just put the TV on, especially when they ask for it. I like to make sure that we have the TV on in the morning, we have some cartoons, and then it goes off for the whole day. And then around tea times we do tend to put it back on because it's just easier, especially when there's only one of us home, like me for example. If Matt's at work, you know, just to get those jobs done, it is easier for me to put the TV on whilst I'm on my own. But of course, on your days off, you don't want to be putting the TV on. You know, you want to be present, you want to be with them, focused on them. You just feel less guilty when you go back to work. You know, you realise that you have actually spent time with your children without screen time. And my last tip is to just be positive, have a positive mindset. So just remind yourself of why you're going back to work. Just remind yourself that you are doing your best, that you are also providing for your family, that you are furthering your job, your career, that you are actually working for your family, providing for them, you're putting the food on the table. Remind yourself of your goals. For example, for me, I am working full time so that we can purchase our first home. So that's always a good reminder when I do feel guilty or exhausted. You know, I'm working 40 hours to provide a lovely home for my children. You are working to clear off that debt, or you're working to pay for those lovely holidays, those lovely days out with your children. Just keep reminding yourself of that when you do have your down days. Remind yourself of how fortunate you are that you do have a job. Not everybody is as fortunate to have a job. I do like to remind myself of how lucky I am. Remind yourself that whilst your child is with their childcare, that you know they are making bonds with that family member, or if they are at a nursery or a childminding setting, that they are making bonds with new people, they're making lovely little friendships, that they're in a completely new environment and that they are learning. Again, they are very fortunate that they get to experience that. Remind yourself to actually enjoy the perks to your job, such as just having that adult conversation, which is hard to come by when you're on mat leave. Just going back to work and having that adult conversation has been great. My husband really appreciates that I have other people to talk to again, and that I don't talk him to sleep most nights like I used to. So there we have it, my 5 tips. I know these might not be groundbreaking, but I would share the things that have really helped me ease back into the workplace with having 2 children and working 40 hours a week. It's an interesting ride. It does come easier with routine, and you definitely do appreciate your children and your home life a lot more when you do go back to work. On maternity leave, it can be hard because everything just melds together. But yes, when you get back into that routine of having work life, home life, you do appreciate weekends a lot more. You appreciate your children a lot more because they're not in your face 24/7. But yes, you know, we do it for our babies. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Good luck if you are going back to work. Please let me know if any of these tips were helpful, or any of your tips down below. I would really appreciate to learn all your tips as well. Thanks again for watching. Please give the video a big like, and please consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.